Afternoon, everybody. It's been one of those days when I have spoken so much that I need to replace all of this right now. Afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Family Law Assistance. It's great to see you. How has your day been? Now, for those of you that are just joining us, hi. I'm going to be talking today about finding your perfect team. Now, in the days when we were doing real life face-to-face hearings, who remembers that? I remember I was helping somebody and we got to court, and you know, as I'd expect my guy to be, he was really nervous. He was one of those people that normally on the day-to-day would be really casual, smart, but today he wore one of those really ill-fitting suits that on closer inspection looked like it was something that had come out of the 80s. You know what I mean? You know, that grey shiny suit? And the shirt that he was wearing had clearly just come out of a pack because the creases were still in there. And the tie just didn't seem to go really with anything else, and it was that bizarre kind of paisley tie that just looked really outdated. Truth be told, he was really uncomfortable with being in court. Now normally he was erudite, articulate, intelligent, but we were there because of his children. And you all know that you're not going to get anything more emotive than your children. And he stuttered and he stammered and he fidgeted, and you know, he was a little bit on edge. You know that feeling you get when you have a little bit too much coffee? That was him. Now, we were all prepared. You know, I'd be a bit worried actually if he wasn't a bit nervous. But on the whole, we were really prepared. He was a little bit late, which I didn't bother, and he sort of rushed past her. Hello, oh, I'm sorry, it was all late. Now, whilst we were really prepared, we had no idea what the other side were going to be like. We didn't know whether the other side had representation, didn't know whether they had somebody like me, didn't know if they'd had the next door neighbour or a mate or a family friend to help them support. We knew absolutely nothing. And one of the things that we did was to help the court, was to give over a position statement. Now, I asked him, I said, okay, so what does your ex look like? And I remember him saying, well, she looks a bit sad. And I thought, blimey, this is family court. Nobody looks particularly happy in family court. How am I going to find her? And then I asked for a photograph, and he showed me a photograph of her. I thought, right, now I know who I'm looking for. And I could see her at the corner by a pillar and a corner of the court. A massive waiting room. It's like one of those great big open plan GP surgeries. And I could see that she was on her own. Now, certainly from my point of view, I wanted to make sure that I didn't intimidate her, that she didn't feel intimidated by anything. I mean, of course she felt intimidated. And it soon became apparent that she had nobody with her at all. So I sort of wanted to make her feel comfortable. Now, this was quite back in those early days when I pretty much started out doing this gig. And as I walked over, she kind of looked at me and froze, and she went, fuck off. Have you ever wondered what it's like being completely on your own in court? Have you been alone, completely on your own in court? Have you ever wanted to have somebody by your side that's just been the voice of perspective? Have you ever wanted somebody to say, shut up? Have you ever wanted someone just to be the person that says, don't agree to that? Have you ever wanted someone there to just simply hold your hand? You know, having a team around you is super important. It really is. I've maintained throughout my entire journey of doing this that it doesn't matter who you've got by your side, be it barrister, solicitor, somebody like me, your next door neighbour, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have somebody by your side. Now, in the trade, we call people who just rock up to court naked litigants in persons. And that simply means that they rock up without anybody. Here's the thing about when people just rock up without anybody. Ever seen one of those cats that is backed into a corner? You know what I mean? The minute you come towards them, they do one thing: attack. You know one of those feral cats? Right, that. See, it doesn't matter from that person or from your point of view if you've been in court completely on your own. For a start, all of it's foreign. Most people who walk through family court doors have never been in court before in their lives. And all of a sudden, they're having to work out arrangements for their children, if they're talking about their houses, their position, their possessions, their assets. It can be a really scary place, and it's quite different for people like me who are in court and working with this stuff on the daily. It's like the documents that get presented to you. It looks like English, but it doesn't feel like English. And I sometimes laugh because sometimes the language that's used in court, there's a certain kind of language, right? You know, people who walk in with the greatest respects and humbly apologetic. It's not the language or the rules that you'd play with in reality. Being completely on your own means that you're likely to be, first of all, very, very emotional. And if you're very emotional, you tend to clam up. You may not see actually any opportunities that might be there. Alternatively, you might say something that you regret. The number of times that I've seen people go into court completely on their own, and honestly, arse it up. They had a plan, but somehow it didn't translate into what they wanted to say. Or maybe they've been distracted by an allegation that's been said, and that person has the need to rebut. And by the time you've started rebutting and talking about God knows what, you come out of court not really know what you went in there for. I remember one person, and he had an argument with the judge. He told the judge what for. And when he came out of the court hearing, somebody asked him, "So how'd you get on?" And he said, well, I told that judge what for. And the person asking him said, "Right, okay, so and what contact did you get?" "Well, none." But there was nothing that he could say. I've always likened that the words that you use in court to be like currency. In other words, you're not going to want to waste that currency. News alert. It's not quite so sexy to say that the glory is not in the court hearing. I know, right? The glory is in the preparation. And part of that preparation is having the right team. Now, listen, some of you who've worked with us may already get the gist of how we work. Life happens not on a 9 to 5. This is not a 9 to 5 kind of a gig. Sometimes, when parents have obstacles like, "So what do I need to put in a communication book?" I mean, how many people out there have seen parenting books about how to parent a child with a communication book, or how to parent a child with a text message? Let me tell you, the number of misinterpretations that happen in a communication book or a text message is massive. What about when the child turns up and all of a sudden the child apparently needs medicine at 6 o'clock at night? Where are you going to get that medicine? Having somebody by your side, whether it's barrister, solicitor, or somebody like us, to be that voice of perspective is valuable. Not only do you know your case, I mean, you are the case, you know who, what, why, where, when, and how, just like that. What you do need is somebody to orchestrate you through that, to say that, here's what we do, talk through the steps, orchestrate you through that minefield. I don't know if any of you seen that program, maybe I'm showing my age now, that program Wipeout, when you had to get from A to B and there was like dishcloths and buckets of water being thrown at you. Well, court's kind of like that. You're meant to get from A to B and dodge the tomatoes being chucked at you, dodge the dirty dishwater. Having somebody next to you that, and this is crucial, impartial, is really valuable, because that person, somebody like me, doesn't know your children. You know, at the end of the day, I'll still go home and have a cup of tea and go to bed, but this is your children. So sometimes people bring family members in. I'll never forget one case where this one person brought their entire posse to court, and you know what, the other side did the same as well. You know what it's like, because opinions are like arseholes and everybody's got one. Being the flea in the air, well, I wouldn't put up with that if I was you, or I would say I wouldn't take that from him if I was you. Add in Facebook and you've got a whole cacophony of noise, which it loses your focus. It loses your focus as to why you're there. Whether it is how to fill out a communication book, to, well, what do I do when my child comes to me in dirty clothing, all the way through to what the heck do I do with a finding of fact? What case law do I need for this? What form do I fill in for that? When you're completely on your own, or you feel like you're on your own, some of your friends just may not get it. I certainly remember people, I helped this one poor person and his friends were saying, well, there's no smoke without fire, which to him wasn't particularly helpful. So your friends may not get it. You might find that, you know, the friends that would be by you suddenly aren't. So finding your right team and having that consistent by your side is important. The number of people that have come to me after having a solicitor or a barrister or even someone else like me, and they've been fighting their own help, find different help. People like me should be telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Sometimes in my role, I'll often say to people, look, I don't have to believe you. In fact, I'm probably doing a better job if I don't believe you, because I'm going to be asking those questions that the other side would ask, which in a court case is pretty damn useful, right? You don't need tea and sympathy. You don't need someone to go, God, I wouldn't take that if I was you. What you need is a plan. What you need is focus. So what if you could actually get out what you wanted to say? What if your anxiety could go from 5th gear to 1st gear? So I saw her in the corner of the room and I walked up to her and she went, fuck off. And I delicately handed out a position statement and a smile. She didn't take the statement. And when we went into court, it turns out that actually both parties were in agreement. But she'd missed that. Guys, I hope this has been of use to you. As ever, put some comments down below. Have you found your team yet? Are you happy in what you're doing? Do you know what you're doing? Have you got a plan? Have a great day, guys. Over and out.